Hey there, welcome to another video from Stories Across Cultures. Me and Beijing, we're calling you here from Beijing at the centre of this new cluster outbreak. We want to talk to you about our experiences and what we can learn from this as we go forward into the new normal that we're going to have to live with as we deal with the coronavirus.
Firstly, I want to say, if you haven't subscribed our channel, please do. We'll have more content coming. So a lot of you might have already heard that we have a new cluster outbreak here in Beijing, happened 10 days ago in a Xinfadi market, which is the biggest Asian food market here. And they actually supply around 70 to 80% of the vegetables here in Beijing. We were kind of worried at the very beginning, but I think after a few days, since the measure has been taken, people are feeling more and more relieved. So the government has been taking a lot of fast moves to control the spread. For example, they've been starting testing right after in the market and several markets. Also, people who live in the neighborhood around the market, people who have living in the neighborhood of the confirmed cases, and all the people who work for restaurant and delivery as well. So we have tested around 2.3 million till yesterday. All the schools are now closed. Regards to travel, obviously if you need to travel, you can, as long as you have a certificate that says that you're tested negative in the last 7 days. We actually had a plan to travel this weekend, but we decided just to refund the ticket. So if you don't want to travel, now you can also get your ticket for the refund, which was quite convenient for us because we don't want to suffer any financial loss from that, from these unexpected circumstances. And regards to work, if you're actually from, we have a 3 level of risk area. For example, we live in the low risk area. You work in the low risk area as well, but some people work in the medium and high risk area. Then you should do remote working. And regards to business, all the restaurants has been shut down in the high and medium risk area, but here we are actually keeping it going.
So alongside this, I believe there's many lessons that other countries and other regions can take away from the experience that China has just had with this new coronavirus cluster outbreak. So, as I said, it's been 10 days into this coronavirus outbreak, and even within this short space of time, we have identified the source. We have then closed that area down where it was coming from. We have tracked all of the people who were connected to this source, and we've then tested them to identify those that have the virus, and we've then isolated them so they can't spread it to anyone else. The key thing here is that China had already experienced this same situation in January and in December last year when it occurred in Wuhan. They learned lessons from this, and they then brought in all these new measures to make sure they could deal with a future outbreak. And that future outbreak happened just in the last weeks in Beijing. So they already had all these testing facilities available. They already had people on call who would step forward, and then they would track down the people. They had all of the registrations, so they know where to look for these people who were in contact with the infected. So they could pretty quickly bring in these measures and track down those people. They also have some ways that they're then able to stop misinformation, which were detrimental to their efforts to fight the new coronavirus. And this is actually very effective and something that I think other nations can learn from China. There was a few cases recently which I think are something that we can look at as examples. So there was a slightly older man, I think in his 60s, who was dissatisfied with the government for whatever reason. So he decided to go online and spread some false reports. He created a document which said there was 25,000 confirmed cases in Beijing, and obviously this predicted that very soon the whole country is going to be awash with all these new cases. This was actually a falsification. He created it himself, and he and his friend spread it online, and obviously many people saw it. People who saw it was also members from the government, and they quickly identified these two individuals, took the article down, and they were swiftly punished. Another example was there was a delivery guy. He delivered parcels for a living. He was actually dissatisfied with the government for some other reason, and he also created some sort of false information. He said he himself was infected, and he would have infected lots of people during his job, and actually he was tracked down, tested, he wasn't infected, so actually he would falsely reported that he was infected. And this is again an example of spreading false information. So these two examples show that the government was quite quick to identify these people who are actually spreading rumours, and they quickly dealt with it, took them offline. So they made sure that all of the information regarding the coronavirus was authoritative. It was issued by the government, and it was all beneficial to fighting the coronavirus. The information out there was things you need to do, and it wasn't rumours and false fake news, which is actually just basically hurting the effect. So this is something China did quite well, and it's also something I think other countries can learn from. They also need to make sure that discussions online or rumours that are going around are kept on topic. They're not talking about things which are actually not helpful to the cause of fighting the coronavirus. They want to make sure that actually there's less fake news around. So what can we learn from this recent coronavirus cluster outbreak in Beijing? So as we've just talked about, Beijing was very efficient and very quick to track down those who were infected, put all the correct measures in place, such as quarantining and shutting down those markets, telling the public what they needed to do, and clamping down on rumours. And so far, after 10 days, everything has pretty much been taken under control. Very swift. So other countries can learn from this. They can take a leaf from China's book and perhaps use some of the same measures to ensure that they also don't experience a large-scale second wave, actually. It just remains as a small cluster which is dealt with quickly. So many other nations have had small cluster outbreaks recently. Last month in South Korea, they had dealt with it pretty well themselves, but there was actually a new cluster outbreak in a nightclub. In the UK, just like past week actually, in a meat packaging factory, Two Sisters, there was a small outbreak there. And even in nations which are deemed very safe, such as New Zealand, they had been almost a month. They'd been 24 days without any new cases, but they had an imported one from the UK, which shows obviously the dangers of spreading from other nations. So each of those had a new cluster outbreak, and they each dealt with it in a different way. But through our experience of living in Beijing through this new outbreak, we can see the benefits of this Chinese approach, and I think there's a lot that other nations can learn in their approach to the coronavirus from China.
So besides the government, what we learned personally from our experience in the past half year is always be ready for this kind of case to come back. I think we won't be free from coronavirus anytime soon. We need to be ready for it psychologically and physically.
Yeah, this might last until we have the cure, immunity, which could be 1 or 2 years. So a long time indeed.
Yeah. We always need to be ready for preventive measures like taking a mask with you, also washing your hands, bring hand gel, like doing social distancing. We might not be able to travel freely anytime soon. We might need to change our habit, like going to pub, like going to restaurant.
Regrettably.
Yeah, but this is what we have now, and eventually we will get used to it. We should really adjust our mindset towards this new normal. This is what we're doing now. It actually affects us in some way because we were having some moving plans this year, right? I guess we learned to accept it. This is what it is. So we hope that all of us will be safe from this, and we learn from each other, and we bring this to a better place.
Exactly.
So don't panic, but take our responsibility for that. We will see you in the next video.
Exactly. Remember to subscribe and stay tuned for the next one.
Bye bye.